Hello guys, how's everyone doing today? This is Alpha Sentry again, back with another Duelyst deck tech. So if you haven't played in a while, there was a patch a few weeks ago where they nerfed pretty much every problem card in the game, in my opinion. The game is in a very good state right now, I would say. With Vaath toned down a lot, there's no clear number one deck. The meta is still settling somewhat, but it seems like a lot of things are viable. That said, I think the deck I'm going to show you today is definitely at the top tier of decks. Very competitive, doesn't really have any bad matchups, and gives your opponent a headache to play against. It's very fun to play as, and it's also probably one of the most positioning heavy decks that Duelyst has seen in a while. So let's just hop right into the deck list here. So it's a mid-range deck revolving around Thunderhorn and Lost in the Desert. So the main idea here is you drop a Thunderhorn that they can't answer, then they're going to be forced to spread out their units, and then that's playing right into Lost in the Desert. That's going to be the main combo. The rest of the deck is just a aggro to mid-range shell. Can play quite aggressive and pump out a lot of damage. But you also have a decent shot in the long game with Sandswell Reader and Imara Healer. A ton of hard removal, good tempo plays. Just a very solid all-around deck. So yeah, I will look at some of the card choices now. So these are going to be the three key players in the deck. Thunderhorn, obviously just a very strong minion to drop by itself, but this deck is really the one to take advantage of it probably the most now. You can play it safely, play it in the backlines, and if they just run away from it, you can give it Blast with Kinematic Projection. And that's a pretty cheesy combo because when Thunderhorn damages an enemy, it also damages all joined enemies. So with the Blast you can damage multiple enemies, and then each enemy that you damage is going to chain damage. So if you blast 3 guys and they're all connected, everyone takes 12. So the Kinematic Projection is there so that they can't ignore Thunderhorn. So then what's the response to a Thunderhorn is just to spread out your guys, and that of course is going to play right into Lost in the Desert. So it's, in most scenarios, it's a lose-lose situation for the opponent if they can't answer the Thunderhorn. Lost in the Desert is obviously a card that is designed so that your opponent always has to play around it. With Thunderhorn and some of the other elements of the deck, we're going to make it so that they basically can't play around it, and that's when it becomes very powerful. So these 3 cards kind of work together to put your opponent in a lose-lose situation all the time. Then to back them up, we have Repulsor Beast and Bob. So these 2 cards are just to manipulate the opponent's position, either to chain minions for a big Thunderhorn, to set up a Lost in the Desert by separating their units, or to push their minions into range of one of your blast guys with a Kinematic Projection. So lots and lots of synergy in this deck. Repulsor Beast obviously can also be used as hard removal against certain factions, but there's so much removal in the deck you probably won't be needing to do that. And Recombobulus can be an alright early play. If you're willing to take a random chance, it can mess with their positioning a little bit. Right, so now we're just getting into the meat of the deck. These are the other 2 drops. I went for Primus Fist and Azure Herald. Herald is great because it lets us play the long game. Primus Fist, because we're going to have a lot of quite weak bodies with Xerix, with Azure Heralds, with the 3 drops and 2 drops. And Primus Fist is just good for buffing them up to take board, or just for pushing the extra damage. Blazehound is the card draw that I chose to use for this deck. So I wanted kind of an aggressive 3 drop, but I also needed some card draw. Blazehound fills both those spots. It has the best synergy with Kinematic Projection, because 4 attack is not a meaningless blast. You can play Blazehound in the back and then give it blast, and that can be a strong play. Falcius, I don't think I need to say another word about Falcius. And then the rest of the deck is, the first 2 cards there are just Vitruvian good stuff, so Science First Wish, really no reason not to run this. It helps with our trades, it helps push damage, it immediately cantrips. And Blood of Air is going to be fantastic high removal to deal with most of the hard problems that has to face. And then Sandswell Reader is an interesting choice. It does a lot of things. It's a very skill-based card. So you can obviously use it to bounce your opponent's stuff as a tempo swing. Sometimes I will, if they play like a 4-drop, I will Sandswell Reader it. They'll play it again, then I'll Blood of Air it. They just wasted 2 turns. It also helps you win the longer games. The Exhuming Sands summoning a zillion 2/2 dervishes really just helps you outvalue your opponent if you get 2 or more tiles, I would say. Also in the value game, you can bounce your own stuff to not run out of cards. You can bounce your Azor Heralds to basically have as much healing as you want. You can bounce Falcius, just because that's such a good thing to do if you're playing a very long game. Usually I will use this on my opponent's stuff though, and then just write out the value game with the 2/2 tiles. And finally we have a Myra Healer. This isn't compulsory by any means, and a lot of vet decks don't run it. But I think with Thunderhorn, so many people are going to be forced to use hard removal on Thunderhorn. There's a good chance that they won't have it for a Myra Healer. On top of which, the healer can just win some matchups on its own, for instance against Lionar or Magma. So that is the deck. Hopefully this was a bit of a shorter video. I'm going to record the second part now to play some games, give you a sense of how the deck plays out, and talk about my replaces and choices. Definitely give it a try yourself, and I will see you in the next video.